The world was holding its breath. It was September 2025. Something felt wrong. The air crackled with a familiar tension. A ghost of crises passed. Stock tickers in every major city. New York, London, Tokyo began to stutter, flashing red more often than green. It wasn't a crash, not yet. It was something worse. It was the silence before the storm. People on the street didn't know the specifics. They just knew the price of milk was a little higher. Their mortgages felt a little heavier. The news anchors spoke in hushed, serious tones about market volatility and investor uncertainty, which was code for nobody knows what the hell is happening, but it feels bad. So, how did we get here? Again, it wasn't about bad mortgages this time. It was something far more subtle and far more dangerous. The problem was hidden in plain sight inside the very code that ran the modern financial world. After the last crash, the world went digital. Everything became faster, automated. Trading algorithms, not people, were making most of the decisions. These algorithms were designed to do one thing: make money. They weren't designed to be wise. The root of the problem was something called synthetic debt obligations, or SDOs. It sounded complicated, because it was meant to be. Wall Street loves a good acronym. SDOs were digital bundles of debt, but not real debt. They were bets on bets. Imagine a loan. Now imagine betting on whether it's paid back. Now bundle thousands of those bets together. Algorithms sliced and diced those bundles and sold them to other algorithms. A house of cards built on code. A digital ghost in the machine. Money flowed into a black box. Profits flowed out. Everyone was happy. But the algorithms all learned the same trick, piling into the same SDOs, creating a hidden bubble at light speed. A single point of failure. A herd of elephants on a pinhead. In a quiet data center, buried deep in the mountains of Switzerland, something was watching. It wasn't a person. It was a machine. Its name was Prometheus. A $5 billion project, funded by a consortium of central banks and a few paranoid tech billionaires. Its audacious purpose: understand the entire global financial system in real time. Not to trade or profit, a watchdog, a lifeguard. The most expensive fire alarm ever built. Prometheus wasn't just a number cruncher, it was a systemic risk modeler. It ingested everything: stock prices, bond yields, every financial report, every article, every social post, every shipping manifest, every satellite image. It analyzed political sentiment, monitored energy use, tracked capital from megabanks to the smallest digital wallets, a living map of the economic organism. The team blended finance with complex systems, science, and human psychology, baking fear, greed, and herd behavior into Prometheus's architecture. For 3 years it watched and learned how a bad harvest in Brazil could ripple to a pension fund in Japan through 1,000 invisible steps. The first alert wasn't a siren, it was a whisper. A single data point flagged in the early hours of September 15, 2025. It appeared on the screen of Dr. Eris Thorne, the lead systems analyst. A tiny anomalous correlation. A small fintech in Singapore defaulted on interbank loans. A class of SDOs tied to startup debt showed a microscopic volume dip. To any human, noise. But Prometheus saw a connection. Not a guess, a pattern. It scanned the entire portfolio and found near total exposure to one SDO. Then it looked wider. Thousands of small and mid-banks repeating the same pattern. A hidden network of exposure. The algorithms learned the same trick and sold it to the same unsuspecting customers. The simulations were chilling, a chain reaction. Within 72 hours, credit freeze. 96, major banks on the brink. A tiny domino no one noticed. Prometheus mapped the next 10,000. Prometheus produced a map, a contagion of light. Each star, a living node, a bank, a hedge fund, a pension plan. The failing bank burned bright red. Red lines shot out like a virus. Southeast Asia, then Europe. Institutions holding the same toxic SDOs. The first wave of infection. A second set lit yellow, not exposed directly, but lenders about to get the call. Loans not repaid. They'd hoard cash and halt lending, a credit freeze. Then the super spreaders, 5 massive investment banks, brokers of the derivatives tied to SDO bets. Those derivatives would trigger payouts the banks couldn't cover. Prometheus laid it out with brutal clarity. A kill list of institutions, toxic assets, and interlinked contracts. Exact pillars and their order of collapse. The world sleepwalking toward a cliff. Prometheus handed them a map of the fall. Could they build a bridge in time? With the disaster map in hand, there was no time for debate. Dr. Thorne's team initiated the Helios Protocol. The first calls woke the world's central bankers, the United States Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan. No opinions, just data. They watched the ghost of their own future. Silence. Then, instant collaboration, a new kind of crisis management. Prometheus didn't guess where to act. It told them, down to the dollar. Not a blind bailout, but surgical, targeted injections to precise institutions. Next, defuse the bomb. A coordinated quarantine via an emergency liquidity facility. Banks could swap toxic SDOs for ultra-safe bonds at a discount calibrated to avoid fire sales and moral hazard. For the super spreaders, the exact contracts were named. Regulators arrived with non-negotiable directives. Positions were unwound under a central bank backstop. The chain reaction was broken, the dominoes were steadied. When the news broke, it wasn't about a crash, it was a near miss. A week ago, she said, we stood at the edge of a global economic abyss. We did not step back, we were pulled back. She didn't name Prometheus, but the press did. Smaller banks whispered relief. The biggest stayed silent, exposed by a machine. We spent decades building systems nobody could understand. Then they built a system that understood everything. People felt confusion, then unease, then relief. My pension was almost wiped by an SDO, but an AI named after a Greek fire god saved it. 2025 is weird, but thanks. Awe followed, and a deeper conversation about powerful AIs helping govern our shared systems. In the months that followed, the world lurched into a new normal. The era of the black box ended. Laws mandated radical transparency. Banks now reported holdings and risks to a global oversight body powered by Prometheus. If Prometheus could parse it, so could watchdogs. The incentive to obfuscate vanished. Finance pivoted back to the real. Lending to builders and makers. Capital flowed into long-term bets. Clean energy, medicine, even space. Mortgages steadied. Business loans eased. Optimism returned. The casino stayed open, but the lights were on, the cards face up, and the pit boss never blinked. Prometheus reframed AI. Not a rival, but a partner safeguarding our common good. The legacy of the 2025 rescue wasn't just crisis averted, it changed how we govern complexity. Our world runs at the speed of light while our brains idle in first gear. Prometheus was the equalizer, a cognitive prosthetic. The debate birthed governance. Systems like Prometheus must serve the public good, operate transparently, and be overseen democratically. The AI found the problem with perfect logic. Humans communicated, negotiated, and chose. The AI provided the map. Humans steered the ship. This synergy became the new gold standard for global challenges, a story of hope and human ingenuity. We built a system so complex it nearly destroyed us. Then we built a tool to understand and tame it. With courage, collaboration, and intelligent machines, there is no crisis we cannot overcome.